Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. Everything Houston Cougars with us on 365 Sports. Joseph, I got to tell you, I was kind of floored when I saw the news about Chris Pezman, but the more and more I read, and of course you've had a lot of reports as well, that this was something that did a lot of people see this coming except Chris Pezman?
Well, first of all, how come every time we talk there's something big going on? I'd like to just have a normal conversation with you guys sometime.
We can
talk
do
about
that.
some nice, just some nice spring football updates or something. But, man, there's just so much news going on lately.
It is. You're right.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, there have been some rumblings. And, with 2 years left on your contract, you generally think, okay, well, at a school like Houston that hasn't been known to necessarily cut ties quickly, you think maybe another year, and then you start looking at that and revisiting it. But it turned from a end of the year review meeting to time to clean out your desk moment yesterday between the school president Renew Couture and now former athletic director Chris Pezman. So things had been trending in the wrong direction. But, I'll say I was surprised. I didn't think that they'd pull the trigger right now, but they certainly they showed that 1 year into the Big 12 they needed to make a change, and they're not afraid to make that change at the top.
So how much of it, and I believe it was in a report from you, or at least part of a Twitter note, that they weren't thrilled with the fundraising part of it moving forward. And I think the president even kind of alluded to things are different as we move forward.
Yeah, in her release, she noted the changing paradigm of college athletics and how things are evolving with NIL. She didn't specifically talk about the revenue share plan that's in place, but all those things added up. And when you're not at a point in the raising money that Houston just lacks in, they felt like that was the biggest. If you had to choose one huge black mark for Chris Pezman, that was it. And they've had several years that they knew they were going into the Big 12, and they certainly haven't made the progress that they thought that they could be at. And this is a huge market. They've got a large alumni base, and they haven't tapped into it. They have not, in so many words, they haven't had a plan. They went through about 2 years ago and announced this grand campaign that they wanted to do. They wanted to raise $150 million. They announced an initial $50 million or whatever, and from that point, never heard another word about it. Not a peep, no updates. And that kind of shows maybe a lack of direction or progress. And I think between Renew Couture and Tillman Fertitta, they just had enough. And they needed to go out and find somebody who was going to move the needle and get people excited and get maybe some of these corporations that have been untapped in this market on the college level to maybe join forces and take on this new era that we're about to see in college athletics.
Joseph, was the way he handled Holgorsen popular with Holgorsen moving on? They obviously have a great coach in Willie Fritz. Was that timely? Was that something that there was pushback on, or did they say maybe that he waited too late?
Well, I'm not going to put that entire thing on Chris Pezman, because at the end of the day, anybody around this program, this university, knows that there are multiple people that are involved heavily, including Tillman Fertitta. But if there's going to be a fall guy, or if there's going to be someone that's going to have to take the brunt of the criticism, it's going to be the athletic director. So yes, that it was the extension back in 2022 that they did it, and even Chris Pezman at the Big 12 meetings in May, he told me, look, that probably wasn't the right decision, but they wanted to send a message that they were serious, that they were going to be all in with football and with Dana, and it eventually cost them. Dana had his issues and some of the things that he said regarding recruiting and sort of just the nature of how he was conducting business, and it cost them nearly $15 million. So that's huge chunk of change any school that you're at. So yeah, if there were things that were going to take you from bad to worse, that was it. And the fact that only happened in November sort of tells you that they let the rest of the academic school year play out. And if his fate wasn't decided on that day that they fired Dana, some of the other underperforming sports and how they handled contracts for women's basketball, baseball. There's been some rumblings of some allegations of stuff going on with the softball team. That just all piled up, and they had to make a move.
Why would they have had him as the face or at the front of that event that there was the night before? Was that just go ahead and business as usual and then make the decision when you make the decision?
That's a good question, and that's where part of me is in the camp of I've talked to multiple people that said that Chris Pezman did not think, if he thought if something was going to happen, he certainly didn't think it was going to happen the next day. And, I was at that event. I watched him room, shake hands, meet with people, talked about the future. This was not a guy that was preparing to walk out of the building, for the last time, the next day. So that was an odd time. Maybe it was just the tie being a coincidence, but it certainly raised some eyebrows about why would you put yourself in that position? Because I have to believe that Kelvin Sampson and Willie Fritz knew something was coming down, because they're going to be involved in the search for an athletic director. And I think the president and Tillman Fertitta would kind of give them some type of heads up. I do know that the rest of the senior staff and those in the program, they didn't know until that email and those tweets went out yesterday that the school was making a change at the AD spot.
So he's gone, and then is the one who was second in command, did he leave as well?
Yeah, Garrick Classy. He's been here less than a year. He came from Nebraska. He just got announced today as the new AD at Fresno State.
That's what I thought. So who's running the ship right now?
That's the other interesting component of this. These searches typically, I can't imagine it taking a long time, but in the interim, the school president appointed a gentleman named Raymond Bartlett. He's a senior vice president for finance and administration. So he's on the other side of campus. He's got no affiliation with the athletics, and I don't know if that's her sending a message that, for now she's going to have one of her people involved. And the fact that the guy who just left was the chief financial officer, maybe that's not there's no one else to sort of hold down the fort. So they've got to take a look now at how they're going to restructure things internally, and for now it's just going to be with her appointed person. And right now there's not a lot that's going on. The academic year's over, and there's not a lot of huge items that are left out there. So I think this is just going to be a short term, and then hopefully they get somebody in place here in the next few weeks.
All right, last couple of things. Sampson was hired by Mack Rhodes. Willie Fritz obviously was hired by Pezman. Have you had a chance to visit with Fritz at all? Because that's always, even if he's on great ground for Fertitta and the president, whatever, it's always kind of a little bit unnerving when the person who hired you is no longer there, and especially so fresh as when Fritz is hired like earlier this year.
Right, and going back to the people that are involved and have their fingerprints on things, Fertitta's still here, Couture's still here. Those two were very involved in the Fritz hiring. And with Pezman leaving, I don't see that being any red flag or concern. Whomever comes in and takes the athletic director job. I mean, if we were in year 3 or so of Willie's 5 years and the program was still in bad shape, I could see that happening. But when you look at the two top revenue sports with big interest sports, those two are probably the safest of anyone, along with Carl Lewis in the track program at the university. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna factor at all. I think more than anything, Willie Fritz will be someone that they do ask, hey, do you have some people that in your time, in your 30-plus years, both he and Kelvin with 30-plus years, that they would suggest that Houston look at before they finalize whoever they're going to hire.
All right, Joseph, Mack Rhodes, of course, had a huge influence at Houston, then Missouri, then, of course, has been at Baylor since 16. Jeremiah Dickey worked for him at Baylor. Now is at Boise State. Is that something that might be of interest to Houston to look at him?
He is a name that certainly has come up in my discussions with people, and I can see that at least going down that road and possible interview. There, to my knowledge, there hasn't been anything that's been set up yet. But yes, Jeremiah's history with the school, moving up the ladder, being Mack's right-hand guy, not only here but at Baylor, should go a long way. Mack Rhodes is still very well thought of and well respected at Houston. He's got a lot of influence when it comes to the Big 12 Conference, and I think he will be a person that certainly it will put in a good word for Jeremiah, and he will be someone that whether it's Tillman Fertitta or Renew Couture, they're going to reach out and they're going to ask his opinion.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin Sampson has a tremendous respect and appreciation for Mack Rhodes and how they got things started at Houston with the facilities that they built and stuff. So Jeremiah. The difference between when he was here last and where he's at now, he's had a few years now running his own department. Boise State is not one of the typical group of 5 schools, and I think he'll have, a decision to make if it comes down to it where, he can stay at Boise or he can come back to Texas. But he certainly, if he's not the first call they make, I think he'll be among the first few when they start the process.
Joseph, have you heard anything from Chris Pezman?
I have not. I've left messages for him.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people that have had some small, interaction with him since he left, and there hasn't been much out of that. And he was sort of a, if there was one knock on him, sort of a private guy, and that's generally not a good thing when you're the face of an athletic program. He didn't do a lot of media, and I don't know if that was just sort of a comfort level, or he just felt like, that he wanted to have a lot more to say when the time was right, and it just didn't work out. That Mack is the complete opposite. I listen to Mack when he's on your shows.
Yep.
Mack does interviews all the time. Hunter Yurachek, who's now at Arkansas, was the same way, and then it's kind of a different dynamic with Chris Pezman in his 6 years. But no, I have not spoken with him. But that's in terms of my relationship with him, that's nothing new.
Right. Thank you very much, Joseph. Have a great day. Appreciate you jumping on with us. I know it's been a busy couple of days. Thank you as always.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. We'll have Mitch Thompson, Baylor baseball.